What's happening, everyone? This is Matt on the Vinyl Head UK channel. How are we doing? Hope you're all good. It's time for another gig review. I know, right? They're coming thick and fast now. I'm making up for lost time here. I didn't get to see any live music for what felt like eternities, 18 months or whatever it was. So, I'm packing those gigs in. I'm happy that we've got live music back, so I'm making the most of it. I'm going to go and see plenty of gigs. So this is my third one since we've been able to go back to live music. And yeah, just super excited about that. I love, as you probably know by now, live music. So, if you follow the channel, if you're a subscriber, I think by now you're probably going to know that my main thing is rock and metal. I think that's probably, pretty obvious with the vinyl we've looked at and the gigs we've talked about. But this wasn't a rock and metal show as such. Don't switch off though, okay? Bear with me on this one. If you like your rock and the metal, don't switch off. I want you to hang in on this one. Hang in for the ride, because I don't think you're going to be disappointed. So it wasn't my typical rock and metal show. The gigs that I've covered, we've looked at Download Festival a lot throughout those years. We've looked at Blackstone Cherry that I went to the other week. Skindred as well last week. But this was something a little bit different, okay? But like I say, bear with me on this one, all right? Bear with. Now also, on the gigs that we've covered and, the vinyl we look at, most of these names are pretty known. Household names. You're probably going to know of them. Like I say, Blackstone Cherry, Skindred we've looked at, the vinyls we've covered. You're probably going to have heard of a lot of these acts. This one, you may not be as familiar with. But I hope that when this video is done, you're going to do me a favor and you're going to go and check this artist out. Because again, I don't think you are going to be disappointed. Now, in my time, I've been to a lot of gigs. I've seen hundreds of bands, hundreds of gigs, hundreds of sets. I've been very lucky and very fortunate to see so many incredible bands live. But this gig that I went to a couple of nights ago, it sits right up there. And I don't give that out lightly. Because as I say, I've seen a lot of shows in my time. I got, best part of 20 years of going to gigs under my belt. I've seen a lot of stuff. And so they're up against stiff competition with some of the sets that I've seen and some of the gigs that I've seen. But honestly, it sits right up there. The artist that I went to see, an American guy that goes by the name of Shawn James. S-H-A-W-N. James, okay? Like I say, you may not know him, but I hope you do by the end of this video when you go and check him out. So I went across to Leeds and I went to a new venue, or new to me at least, a venue I'd never been to, and even a venue I'd never heard of. Normally when I go to Leeds is the closest city to me. It's usually where the tours roll through. I go to the O2 Academy, or if it's a bigger show, we've got the Arena, pretty much next door to the Academy. This one, I've got to get the name right. I keep saying it wrong to everyone that will listen. I think it's the Belgrave Music Hall and Canteen, so it's a bit of a mouthful. But I didn't know anything of this venue until I saw Shawn's tour dates and I saw Leeds. There's a second gig on the tour. And saw it and thought, I have no idea where that is. It's right in the city centre. It's pretty easy to get to from where I normally park. So off I went to go and see Mr. Shawn James. Had a little walk through the city. Busy city because it's kind of in the student area. So lots of people about. I walked down. I wasn't really sure what I was going to, or what I was even looking for. And I kind of walked straight past it. I looked around and I saw the name of the venue up. But it looked like, not a restaurant, but it kind of looked like, I don't know how best to describe it. I've struggled all week to try and describe what it kind of was. But it was like kind of a trendy bar that also did food. It definitely didn't look like a venue, let's put it like that. So I kind of peered in. There's people sat with drinks and eating, and I kind of looked around the side of a venue and thought, you know, maybe it's up there. Nothing. So I walked in, and there was a couple in front of me who looked a little bit lost, and probably could see me looking a little bit lost, and said, "Are you guys here to see Shawn James? Or am I here to see Shawn James?" And I said, "Yeah, are you?" And they said, "Yeah." And they said, "Oh, we don't really know where we're going." I said, "Well, me neither." And there was a queue up ahead, and we kind of joined this queue. And the lady turned around to me and said, "I don't know if this is even the right queue." I said, "Well, we're British, we like to queue. Let's queue, see what happens." And we queued. Turned out we were in the right queue. It kind of wound up these stairs into this kind of foyer bit at the top of the stairs. And then you went through, and we were in this very small, intimate room. There was a stage. There's no barrier. Obviously, you're used to going to gigs where there's a barrier before the pit, photographers and whatnot. But you could just lean on the stage if you wanted to. I won't lie, I felt a little bit awkward when I walked in. Because there was people kind of, it was like back in the day when you went to the school disco and everyone kind of stuck to the outside of a room, not really certain on what to do and who was going to be brave enough to make that first move into the centre. And that's kind of what it was. There was a little bar at the back. There was a merch, little set up in the top corner. And it was, I got there pretty early. The doors weren't till 8, so quite late for a gig, I think. So there weren't many people in there. I started queuing about 10 to 8. And yeah, and it filled up a little bit more, and it filled up a little bit more. You know, I really didn't know what to expect. I've been a fan of Shawn James for a while, but I've never actually got to see him live until a couple of nights ago. So I didn't know what to expect from the crowd. I didn't know if it was going to be an older crowd, a younger crowd. Everything was very new to me that night, which kind of excited me because, you know, you go, I see a lot of gigs, I see a lot of bands that I've seen a few times. You kind of get to know what you're going to expect from the crowd and the band and so forth. But this was, you know, everything was new. The venue was new, the crowd was new, seeing Shawn James was new. So before we go any further, let me explain a little bit about Shawn James's music, because I didn't really need to do this with Blackstone Cherry or Skindred or the bands I've talked about at the festivals, because you're probably going to know them already. Shawn James is from Chicago, and he is kind of a singer-songwriter, but he's not just a man with an acoustic guitar. He does play an acoustic guitar, and he does lots of acoustic song covers, whatnot, but he also has a band with him. He's done Shawn James and the Shapeshifters, I believe it is, which is more of a heavier sound. I do like that side to it, but then also I like the very delicate acoustic pieces he does. He's done a load of covers, so stuff like a Stone by Audioslave, Why Try by Macy Gray, Ain't No Sunshine, That's Life he's done as well. He's done a real mix of covers. He's done Losing My Religion by R.E.M. Really beautiful covers. But then he's done a lot of his own stuff as well. You may recognize him without directly knowing who he is from The Last of Us and The Last of Us 2. He does feature on the trailer and on the games. Those games were super big. It's games I own. A lot of people own them. You probably would have heard this man's voice while not directly knowing who it is, okay? So if you heard these tracks by this beautiful singer with this gravelly voice at times, it's probably going to be Shawn James, and you should go and check more out by him, okay? So there was a single support, and this guy went by the sort of moniker of Gravedancer, I believe it was. And this guy, he did say his actual name, which I can't remember off the top of my head. It will hopefully come to me in this video. But he goes by the moniker of Gravedancer. And he is a gentleman from the States. I believe he said he was from the Ozarks, who now lives in Scotland with his wife and children. And he played us some really nice acoustic stuff on the guitar, and then he switched to banjo as well. Kind of interesting because he came out, he's got shaved head, huge great beard, and caked in tattoos all over his skull, all over his arms, everywhere was just tattoos. So you look at this guy and you don't automatically think Americana folk, you know, with a banjo and whatnot. But he was really cool, really entertaining. His stuff between songs was really entertaining. His music was fun. He talked about folk music and American folk and English folk, and he said he'd taken an English folk song and made it kind of an American twist. So we're all going, wow, I wonder what this is. He goes, I think you'll know it. We're all like, what could it be? And then he started playing the Mr. Blobby song, the Mr. Blobby soundtrack, with his banjo and whatnot. And like the crowd loved it. It was a lot of fun. He explained that he's been great friends with Shawn, featured with him, you know, music videos, whatnot, played with him a bunch of times. And then he invited Shawn James out, and there he was, right in front of me. As I say, there was no barrier. You could lean on the stage. You could mess with the effect pedals if you really wanted to be a fool and ruin it for everyone. Thankfully, no one did. They respected that. But Shawn came out and he did a number with Gravedancer, whose EP, if you're watching this on Friday the, whatever it is, 8th or 9th of October, whatever it is, his new EP has come out today, so go and check that out. But yeah, I mean, just hearing Shawn James' voice live for the first time, goosebumps, just like that. He was right in front of me as well. I wasn't directly centre. I was more to stage left. And there was him like 2 meters in front of me. And it was just magic. It was really nice. They harmonised so nicely together, the two of them as well. They had a lot of fun. You could see the bond and the friendship between them. But yeah, it was really nice. I caught a little bit of footage of Gravedancer as well for you guys to enjoy, see what you think. So yeah, check this one out. Tell me I'm the one you love. Tell me I'm the one you love. Yeah. So following Gravedancer, we went into Shawn James. It wasn't much of a changeover. You know, we weren't rolling for very long before Shawn came on. It was about 9:30, I believe it was. And for this tour, it's not just acoustic. So is obviously Shawn with his guitar, acoustic and electric, bass player, drummer, and then we had Sage, who is his electric fiddle player, violinist, who is just magic to watch. I've seen Sage on YouTube play with Shawn on a few things. And what that man can do with that instrument is second to none. And he was directly in front of me for most of the gig, and just watching him play, and you could just, there was no faking it from him. The emotion and the feeling of that music coming out of him as he played was just absolutely magic. And I'm a huge Shawn James fan, and I will come on to my love of his voice and everything in a minute, but let me just do this for Sage. He is just world class. And I don't know much about electric fiddle or violins. It's not really my area of knowledge all that much. I'm a drummer. My love is rock and metal, so I very much know my drums and guitar and bass and whatnot. So violins is a little bit left field for me. But I know enough to know that that man is just so good. And watching that passion as he played and what he did to just compensate the music, it wasn't ever too much. It compensated it really nicely. He had his moments to shine, don't get me wrong. But yeah, I just got to do that little shout out there because he was so good. And he added just that different dimension onto the songs as well. There was very subtle bits that just came through on the mix that just added that extra layer. It was so good, so good. But yeah, they came on and they went straight into Burn the Witch, which is actually one of my favourite songs by Shawn James. And it was such a moody tone to open. It was just Shawn singing, playing the electric, Sage playing that violin, before the band, bass player and a drummer came in. I've got a little bit of footage of that. Hopefully it shows off that moody feel. But let's check it out. This is Burn the Witch.
As I breathe deep and prepare for my passing, I hear them chant, burn the witch. I stand accused.
After Burn the Witch, we went into Curse of a Fold. I don't have a set list next to me. I normally have the set list written next to me so I can kind of remember what was played. So I'm going a little bit on memory here. Curse of a Fold, and I believe we went into The Wanderer. This is all, of course, with the band. We had, I don't know, half an hour or so maybe with the full band. At which point, the band departed and left Shawn James with his acoustic guitar. And we did a couple of acoustic numbers for a little bit. Ain't No Sunshine, which I think was pretty much the first song I ever heard Shawn James do, followed by his cover of Number of the Beast by Iron Maiden. And yeah, we got the stuff from Last of Us through the acoustic portion. He brought Sage back on to play that electric fiddle for a couple of tracks on the acoustic guitar. And it was just magic, you know. From the, let's take away having already seen him do that track in the support slot. Let's just go from Burn the Witch opening that set. When he started singing, it was like just the closest thing to magic that I can probably fathom the words for right now. It just felt like and this is going to probably sound really cheesy and full of emotion, but I want to portray what it felt. It felt like I was the only person in that room, and I could just shut my eyes and I was the only one there, and just listening to this voice, and then the guitar, and then the fiddle as well. And it felt like nothing else mattered at that point. And that's not a feeling I got all that often. The last time I really felt like that was watching Tool. And I've spoke about that on one of my other videos. That kind of, I've not really often got a feeling like that as I watch a band. And it's like, even though I'm in a place with like a couple of thousand people watching Tool, or more than that, tens of thousands of people watching Tool, I didn't feel like anyone else was there, and it was just me and the music, and, you know, just feeling it. And that's kind of what I felt when he started singing and I heard his voice, because his voice is magic. Just, oh my word, just so good. So good. And those first couple of tracks were, I mean, Burn the Witch and Curse of a Fold are probably my two favourite tracks. I was like, I couldn't believe it. That he was opening with the two tracks that I probably love the most. I love all of them, but, you know. And it just, you know, I didn't feel disappointed. Half of me was, well, not half, but a little bit of me was like, you know, will it sound great on record, but live maybe not so much? No shadow of a doubt about it. Just, I put up on my social media, like, this man's voice has just blown my mind. After the acoustic portion, you know, he was telling us, you know, let's bring the band back on and just smash stuff. Let's do it. And they did. He took the time, Shawn James, to tell us some real nice sort of intimate stories about his sister. A couple of stories that he shared. One about her ringing him upset about religion and what she was kind of being forced to hear going through church, something that Shawn explained he had been through, and how he was pissed off that this stuff still goes on. It wasn't an anti-religious bash. He wasn't exploiting Christianity or anything. He was just making it clear that it's not cool to have this belief and that put on and pressured on you. And then he told a story about his sister again, but this time getting cancer, and how he would sing to release the emotion and the anger and the upset, and how she was thankfully cancer free, which obviously everyone loved. It's good news. So yeah, it was nice to hear that intimacy and openness to a bunch of strangers, essentially, for him. But yeah, the band came back on, and, you know, we went back into, I wouldn't say rocking out as such, but having that full band. At 5 to 11, whether it's the manager or what, I don't know, was like, you've got 5 minutes, this is the last song. And everyone's like, what? Come on. And I think the band were a little bit bummed. They did the last number, and then they got told they could do one more. And they did their cover of War, which, if you don't know that song, shame on you. There's been a lot of covers over the years on that song. Sage took on guitar. Shawn James didn't have anything. They brought back Gravedancer with his banjo to play, and it was a really energetic, you know, closest thing I guess to have to full-on rock. A lot of energy from Shawn James, crowd really getting into it. It was such a nice way to just end the set, just that upbeat, great cover that he does, as are all of his covers. But yeah, as I say, crowd, mainly a younger crowd, which I don't know if I was surprised at that or not. A cool looking crowd. Let me just say, I'm used to going to gigs where everyone's wearing a black band shirt, you know, and there's about 9,000 piercings and tattoos, which is nothing wrong with tattoos, you know, I've got mine. I'm not judgmental on that at all if that's what you think, but it was nice to see like a cool crowd. There was a lot of cool people in that room. I didn't feel that cool. I had a I had a black band shirt on. I was representing metal, which I must say as well. So I was wearing a Gojira shirt. I don't need to tell you guys how much I love Gojira. You know that by now, all right? I've touched upon that point like 6,000 times in these videos. And what was really cool was, about 3/4 of the way through the set, Sage, electric fiddle, kind of pointed his bow at me and then went like that across his chest and gave me a little nod because he'd seen the Gojira shirt, which was quite cool to like have that little moment there, make it kind of personal. You don't get that very often, and it's just, I appreciated that. And yeah, I mean, I didn't want him to stop. I literally could have listened to them for hours. I think they probably would have played for hours, judging on their reaction when they got told they had 5 minutes left. I loved every second of that. I've said to a couple of people today that I wish I could go back to that time and relive that hour and a half or so just over and over again, because it was so nice. I loved every second of it. After the gig, I actually managed to talk a little bit to Sage, which was really nice. He's a very lovely, friendly guy. He talked about Gojira. He said he's a big Gojira fan. He told me about, he has a project where he plays more sort of metal on the fiddle and does some of that, which I would like to check out. I'm going to have to go and dig that out and find that. And it was just really nice. He was super thankful for coming out, asked my name, stuff like that, which again, we notice that type of thing as fans, and it means a lot. It really does. I think these guys were so happy playing. Let me add as well, this was their second show back. They were on tour in the UK when the pandemic broke out. Their last gig they did was in Birmingham, which is the area I grew up around, so I know Birmingham very, very well. And they had to go back to the States because, of course, COVID hit. Their first show back was in Birmingham the night before Leeds, which is really cool, I think. It's kind of starting where you left off 2 years later. And then that was their first gig. We got to see their second gig back. And, I think they were just super happy to be playing in front of people again, as would anybody. If that is your profession, that's where you want to be. And then to top off the evening, I had a few minutes of Shawn James's Time, which, how do I word this? I don't tend to get really starstruck. I've been very lucky to meet some incredible musicians over the years. Some bigger names, some smaller names. And I don't tend to get starstruck, and I don't feel like I give that vibe off. But I kind of didn't know what to say to Shawn James. And the first words that I kind of said were just thank you. Thank you for playing, and thank you for just bringing that music. He again, like Sage, was like, Gojira. And it turns out he's a Gojira fan, which I think I had seen. I think he is into his metal. So I think I had seen that, and, spoke a little bit about Gojira. He said about the Birmingham show and whatnot. And we didn't speak for too long, a couple of minutes. But again, he asked my name. I never really know what to say all that much in that sort of situation. But I just said thank you, because for everything that's happened in the last 18 months, to go and stand there for an hour and a half and just feel like nothing else matters in the world, and you're just so engrossed in what is happening on stage with that beautiful voice and the music, there's nothing else you can say but thank you. There really isn't. I had the best time. I honestly had the best time. I've got a couple of videos left to show you guys. One of which is a little bit of the acoustic portion of the show. At this point, Sage had come back on, and I managed to get a little bit of video of the acoustic portion of the show. So let me show you that one.
Oh, everything would end up like this. Survival of the fittest source. So I become the bringer of death and lover life.
So yeah, all in all, just such a great night. I try, you know, be as positive about all the gigs I go to see, because at the end of the day, this is their livelihood, this is their job. I don't want to be someone that says, God, this is awful, this is really bad. Even if I didn't enjoy it, you know, I don't want to be that guy. Never in a million years have I got anything bad to say about this one. This was just phenomenal. As I say, I know I said bear with me on this one, and I've waffled on and on for ages about it, but if you're not so much into rock and metal, it doesn't matter. There are some more rockier tracks, especially on the Shapeshifter stuff he's done. Go and give him a listen, because I really don't think you'll be disappointed by him at all. It's always great to push your musical horizons, I think, and discover new artists. I think that's, don't pigeonhole yourself with the same band. I know plenty of people who do that and don't get a chance to listen to this amazing music that's out there. So go and check Shawn James out. As I say, S-H-A-W-N, James. You'll find him on Apple and Spotify and everything else. Plenty of really cool covers and videos on YouTube as well. Thank you for checking this video out. Really appreciate it. Don't forget to subscribe. Smash the bell for all notifications. Smash that like button as well. Let's expand this channel as much as we can. Thank you again for watching. I'm going to leave you with their last track, their cover of War, where we get a little bit rockier. So there you go, something for you rock guys. Thank you very much. I'll see you all soon.